Hey everybody, this is going to be another recording session for the Polite Society podcast powered by the Second Amendment Foundation. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, and I got to come over here and hit that button to get rid of the timer. Joining me today is going to be John Richardson, the Only Guns and Money blog. Rick Ector, legally armed in Detroit. He's not only going to be here for the interview, he's going to sit in through the entire show. And then Charlie Cook, who cannot be bothered to go to Detroit this year, is going to be joining.
Wait, what? What? Are you? No, you did not just make that big announcement.
Could you just let him finish the introduction?
Charlie
So you're
Cook,
not coming?
I can't make it, man. I gotta go to Virginia and Colorado this month.
For what?
Joining us in the last chair, Charlie Cook, riding shotgun with Charlie, writing shotgun with Charlie, Charlie's Gungrams, and unfortunately not the women's shooting event in Detroit this year.
Oof, man, two times in less than a minute.
So will we deal with the excuses at the top of the show, or is this like in the excuse fest that you're going to offer up for us that you have something more valuable and important to be in Detroit?
I have to.
I
have to have one weekend where I make money, man.
Look! I only asked for one. There's 51 other weeks.
Let's just do the show.
I'm working on getting social media hooked up here.
Right.
And if you are catching us,
Pod Gold right here, people. Pod Gold.
If you are watching us live on Facebook or YouTube on the Polite Society podcast channels, although the show is misnamed on the live titles, if you're watching us live and you want to get a comment in, like razzing Charlie for not being at the women's shooting event later this month,
oh God,
we can get that comment up, get it on the air. But gentlemen, we do have, I believe, yep, you got most of the show ready to fly here.
So I'm just wondering, when were you going to tell me?
I told you a month ago when you called me.
A month ago.
We were on the phone back in April.
So you had plenty of notice, right?
Wait, it's July. How was April a month ago?
I don't know. I know we talked in April.
Wait. If I talk to you in April, and it's May, June, July, that was a month ago, right?
Well, I know it was a while ago.
That's right. I know music is like not one of the harder like sciences, but I mean there's still some technical arithmetic accountability in music, right?
Some.
You have to at least be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4.
I had a drummer buddy who was had twin daughters, and he named them Anna 1 and Anna 2.
Okay.
That's almost as bad as the joke Denise and the nephew. Oh God.
All right, so are we supposed to start the show yet?
We are supposed to be starting a show. All right, everybody, here we go. Masada Ayub in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masada Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We're recording this one live on Monday, July the 3rd, 2023, Independence Day Eve. My name is Paul Lathrop.
I'm John Richardson, and on tonight's show we will talk with Rick Ector about his upcoming ladies shooting event.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about a federal judge tossing out a gun charge against a felon. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 667 of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here, folks. It's Monday night. It's just after 7 p.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters. So that means it's time for another episode of Polite Society Podcast. And going forward, everybody, just a little brief announcement as we do start off the recording of the show. If you're going to catch us live, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, or 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, going forward will be the start time every Monday night. So let's go ahead and get started. Normally I throw to Rob first, but he decided that this week he wanted to be underwater. Thankfully, he didn't book a somewhat questionable submarine. John, what's been going on with you since the last time we talked to you, bud?
Well, I spent the last week on grandparent duty. We helped care for the granddaughters while their mom was at a teachers' conference down in Dallas, and my son-in-law had to work. Also, with the help of a friend, we did get my Savage 338-06 rebarreled, headspace, etc. It's ready to go. I have ordered scope mounts and rings for it. I've got a scope ready to put on it. I may have to add a little bit of weight to the buttstock to balance it out. Right now it's at 8 pounds, and a little extra weight will never hurt when it comes to felt recoil. This rifle is going to Africa with me in about 11 months. So there's that. Charlie?
Oh, wow. Which countries are you going to?
South Africa.
Okay.
Very cool.
Eastern Cape.
Yeah. That
So,
sounds awesome.
so you're going on a hunting trip. What actually are you going to hunt?
Well, it's a package that starts out with Nyala and bushbuck, but you can add stuff, so I'm probably going to add maybe a kudu and maybe a wildebeest. And then, maybe a blesbok.
Oh, man, that's intense.
Now, are you going to
So
have...
you're going to have it like mounted and shipped back home, or what? How do you do? What's the deal with that?
I will probably do what they call dip and pack, where you have it sent to a South African taxidermist. They will disinfect it, make sure there are no bugs, whatever. They'll throw it in a box eventually, ship it to the U.S., and I'll have a U.S. taxidermist take care of it.
Oh, man,
it's a little more expensive, but you save on the shipping coming from South Africa. So it's like 6 and 1/2 dozen of another.
When you're talking about that, what keeps going through my head, and this is going to show my age a little bit, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Oh man, I remember that show.
And you hear Marlon Perkins say, and now you see Jim Fowler wrestling this wild wildebeest. Go Jim, go as Perkins is back, 300 yards in a covered vehicle. No danger to him, but he sends old Jim Fowler out there to wrestle the animals with nothing.
That's right. They're also known as news, GNU. So it'll be good news and bad news. Hopefully only good news.
Oh man, wow. That sounds like something out of Charlie Cook's joke book. Oh my God.
All right, as we get to Charlie, let me do this. MK wants to know, whoops, I got to change that one. MK wants to know, is Charlie's artwork Gauguin or Gauguin? So
I like that. It's what is it? What's his name? Andy Warhol.
Okay.
It's pro gun. It's but yeah, that was good play on Gauguin.
So, Charlie, what's been up with you, man?
Yeah, so it's been a pretty quiet week until Rick hopped on the show. I was on the Weekend Bullet. I was on the Weekend Bullet with Paul, Dan Moss, and Alex Uli, which was always a good time. And I had an article come out this week on News 2A about the sham that was the gun law listening tour that we had here in Massachusetts. Really what happened is the politician that was doing the gun law listening tour, which I have to now add in with my fake voice for assault weapons and high-cap magazines, ghost guns. Really all he did was take the Massachusetts gun laws, and it's kind of like that Seinfeld episode of The Opposite, where he says, okay, we don't have to do live fire. Oh, we have to do live fire. Oh, we have to do de-escalation. Oh, we have to learn how to do trauma first aid. Oh, you're not going to be able to carry your gun anywhere. So anywhere. So what our politician did is took a look at everything that Bruin changed. They got upset about that, and they took everything that New Jersey and New York did and said, oh, we're just going to cross out New Jersey and New York and put in Massachusetts, and how else can we make it worse? So I wrote an article about that on news2a.com.
All right.
That's this, yeah, pretty quiet week.
You said it was a sham. What I want to know is, was it a sham? Wow.
Oh my God, that's like a Rick Ector joke.
That was a good one, man. That was a good one.
So let's do this. Rick, we're going to be interviewing you here in just a few minutes about what's coming up the end of this month. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to jump away to our first break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the women's shooting event in Detroit with Rick. We'll find out everything we need to know, and we'll get to that right after we hear from ACLDN. We'll be right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, we are back. This is the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Of course, our interviewee today, Rick Ector, he is the organizer. He is the driving force behind the women's shooting event coming up the end of this month. I believe it's the 29th and 30th of this month. Yes, 29th and 30th of this month up in Detroit. Rick, let's get as I usually do when I talk to you about these things, I want you to give us a little bit of background. How did this thing start off, and give us a little bit of the history of it, would you?
Oh, absolutely, man. This year's iteration of this annual event is the 12th annual Legally Armed in Detroit, or LAID, as the acronym spells out. Free women's shooting event. It's an event that every year we aspire to enhance safety, particularly among women in southeastern Michigan, southern Michigan, and perhaps even all over the entire state. It's a program that I came up with 12 years ago after watching what I felt was a very distressing story on the local news telecast about a woman who was killed and her nude body was just discarded on the street after some bad guy had his way with her. And I really felt that someone should do something about it, and got together with a couple of firearms instructors here in southeastern Michigan from Metro Detroit. And what we came up with was that we should do a free women's shooting event at a local gun range. I was able to talk a local proprietor of a shooting range into letting us have access to his facility. We, of course, firearms instructors, so we put together several guns between the six of us. I had some ammo laying around, and we took to social media to explain to everyone what we were doing. And to some people, I guess it sounded a little odd or interesting or perhaps even unbelievable that some guys in Metro Detroit were offering a free shooting experience out at a local gun range free of charge. We wanted to remove all barriers in this program. We would provide guns, ammunition, access to ranges, hearing protection, eye protection, target, you name it. We made it available. And the only thing that a participant needed was just a sense of curiosity and maybe even a spirit of adventure, man. And we're well received. In retrospect, when I look at it, we have 50 intrepid souls take us up on our proposition, and I was hoping for more, but I've been fortunate in that I've had the support of friends, local, across the state and across the country, like you guys who support this event, and it steadily grew. And man, I'll tell you, our high water mark was 2020, man. In the throes of everything being shut down, in the throes of COVID, we had roughly 1,938 women trained in a weekend across 2 gun ranges. At that time, we were just 1 gun range per day. This year, we're doing 2 gun ranges per day for 2 days. We're on a steady slope upwards in terms of participation. 2020 was our year that was off the linear scale, but we're on track to do, we think, 1,500 for the weekend now that everything's back online. And I just want to make it known that this program is free of charge to any woman who has a desire to learn more about firearms, at least a basic range safety briefing, full lecture on fundamental firearm safety and gun handling, and then there'll be a 21-round range exercise where they'll hopefully be safely introduced to safely discharging a handgun. So it's an event that I enjoy promoting, that I enjoy conducting, and everything goes according to plan. We will hit the 9,000 women trained over the life of the program, which this will be the 12th year. So we're onward and upwards.
Very cool. Very cool. And you have instructors. Well, maybe not from Massachusetts, but from all over.
Yeah. We don't think we'll have any participation from instructors out of Massachusetts. Good Lord.
But
Paul.
you do have instructors coming in from all throughout the country to help you with this, and it is really a very big team effort to make this happen.
Well, it is, man, and you know what? I don't want for a split second not acknowledge that the one thing that I've been fortunate to develop is a bunch of friends, fellow trainers, and gun rights advocates from all across the country, notwithstanding people who don't want to ride up from Maryland, to participate in this event, man. But, that's one of the great things that I love about the community, man. Not only are we advocates and activists, but we're actually really good friends, man. And I'm truly indebted and honored to every single person who comes up to Detroit to help me put on this event. As a matter of fact, over the last few years, it's been, to be quite the networking event in the gun rights community. So I like to see that aspect continue on. And, it's not only is it great to meet up and talk with your fellow friends and your fellow gun rights advocates, man, but, hey, we're doing a really great cause, man. Just think, we could potentially get 1,500 plus women trained in fundamental firearm safety, safely introduce them to the activity, and there are more people who will be more inclined to be pro-gun, or at least give us a fair hearing when their favorite anti-gun politician in big cities all across the country want to talk about enacting more anti-gun legislation.
At the very least, what these ladies are doing is, at the very least, they're getting rid of their fear of firearms. I was fortunate enough to be able to help you last year, and there were some ladies that came through in my particular lane where I was working that I can think of a couple of them that were just flat terrified as they were doing this, and I don't want to say they were at ease, but they got more comfortable as they went through the as they went through the event. And I'll say this: it was very rewarding to me in that you get to help people that really do need the help. And I'm when I was asked to participate again this year, not only did I say yes, I also convinced Susan to come along to help as well. So,
oh man, look, that was awesome, and I look forward to her making the trip up. Well, yeah, trip up and over to the Great Lakes state, man. But yeah, we're looking to do some really good things, man. And I can't say enough about the sponsorship of the two gun ranges. We're talking about Recoil Firearms and Top Gun Shooting Sports, both of Taylor. They're in the same small suburban town right outside of the Detroit limits. And we're definitely glad to have them as sponsors to allow us to put on this event without worrying about having to pay for their space and their time, man. But they've been huge supporters, and I'm glad that they're enabling this iteration to proceed. I put up the official event on Facebook. I'm trying to think of a very easy way to get people to the URL. But what I'm going to do is direct people to go to either my personal profile, Rick Ector, or Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit, and or my blog. I haven't posted on my blog yet, but legallyarmedindetroit.com. I'll definitely have all of the pointers out there on the internet. I don't think that we're looking at any censorship from Facebook, but I'm trying to keep my muzzle on and not say anything about various things that I see in the news, and to get people, fired up to complain to the censors and get me on another suspension. Man, I'll tell you, free speech isn't free, man, because I stay in the what they call it, the penalty box, because I want to share my opinion on various things that are happening, man. But yeah, we're looking to do a full court press for the next, roughly 4 weeks to promote it. My charge will be to engage the media, whether it's new media, such as your show today, also local media back home, try to get engaged with the local TV stations and some of the traditional print media. Just trying to get the word out. We want to empower women of all ages, 12 to 90. I think the oldest participant we've had thus far was 86. But just get them there. They really, are a cross-section of society, in terms of ages, racial, ethnic identification, religion, you name it, they're there. You can't make any sweeping generalizations about the people who show up. You just know that they have an interest about firearms, and I really feel that this is a golden opportunity to safely introduce them to guns and to at least give them a firsthand experience with firearms. And one of the side benefits that I would like to believe that we accomplish is that we're inoculating them against anti-gun propaganda that might exist in the media that might color some impressions that they have about guns, gun rights, and the people who exercise those rights.
And both on Facebook and on YouTube, and I will get one up in Rumble, but at least on Facebook and YouTube, I did look up your event, and I posted the link there in the chat comments. So anybody who's watching live, or if you're catching us on the replay, that should show up for you. So,
oh yeah, and the other thing, real quick, if you're a firearms instructor, I am calling out for firearms instructors from all 50 states except the one that Massachusetts, because nobody from Massachusetts want to come to the program this year. But the other 49, you're welcome. Please come out to the event. I have an instructors group set up for people who want to help me put on this event. I am so honored and blessed by the literal plethora of fellow firearms trainers who come to Detroit. The name of the group that I have is 2023 Organizing Team for Ladies Shoot. That's our staging area where we're introducing firearms trainers and range safety officers who want to be a part of this program. I've been fortunate in that I've had a great amount of participation from my fellow trainers. Many of them personal friends that I've met over this walk in life I've experienced in the gun rights community. Definitely consider, you three to be amongst that crew. Although Charlie won't be there, he'll be there in spirit. Who knows? If I get John Richardson to come and show up, man, Charlie, your days are numbered, But yeah, if there are any other trainers and RSOs that are looking to come to Detroit, man, and have a lot of fun, do some great networking with fellow trainers and gun rights advocates from all across the state, and of course, to train women of all ages and backgrounds how to safely operate a firearm.
I did also post the link for the group up in both Facebook and YouTube. So let me get a couple comments in here real quick. George Geller says, the Colt wasn't known as the equalizer for nothing. Women have the God-given right to self-defense.
Yeah, man. And you know what? I'll tell you, very few genres of crime stories that get reported are more endearing to me than those in which you see a woman actually possessing a firearm lawfully and using it legally to defend herself. There's a case, I believe, here locally in Detroit about a woman who looked like she was like 8 or 9 months pregnant, and she shot a guy.
Seen that this week.
Yeah, to defend her boyfriend, husband, and and that was like so rewarding on so many different levels. One, it was a woman, and two, it was the woman defending her man. So that was like a twofer, I guess. I mean, it was like a win all the way around. But that's the thing. The more people that carry, the safer we're going to be, because there's some people out here that really have no qualms about exacting violence and punishment to their fellow citizens. So I'd really love to see those stories.
Let me get one more comment in here real quick. Also from George, he says, in California, what Rick is doing would be called training a private militia. Thank goodness you're not in California, man.
Oh, man. California, Massachusetts, what's the difference, man? Oh, God.
Vermont had something like that just a few weeks as well. Where
they
did.
Said,
Can I? Yeah.
Yeah, they absolutely did.
Good.
Let me ask you a couple questions. Number one, I know this event you've got two ranges helping you. Are you getting also support from others in the industry, whether it's money, ammo, or other stuff? And number two, if somebody wants to help support this through a donation, how can they do that?
Yeah, I get a lot of support from a lot of different organizations, man. And I'll say one organization that has really stepped up huge for me this year was Michigan Coalition of Responsible Gun Owners. They're the largest gun rights, gun advocacy site here in the state of Michigan. And MCRGO, through a very generous donation, they are our single source sponsor for purchasing the ammo that we need for this year's event. So I definitely want to let them know that I appreciate their sponsorship and their support. Another gun rights organization, Michigan Gun Owners, they stepped up and they're donating the targets. Doug from what is the name of Doug's company? He does the sites. He is sponsoring the use of his firearms. Man, I'm getting old man. What do you call it when old men forget things at the last second? Of course, the two gun ranges. You know, we got Recoil Firearms, Top Gun Shooting Sports, and there's literally other sponsors who participate at varying different levels. And of course, to put on an event like this, yeah, it does cost a bit. One thing that we're looking at is sponsorship, and there are people out there that want to donate to the cause. We truly would appreciate it. We could either accept donations through PayPal, where you use your actual email address, and mine is info@Detroit CCW. And of course, I have a Cash App, which is $Rick Ector, $RICKECTOR. And if there are any people out there in the community that would like to make a support, donate, we definitely appreciate it. I can't think of a cause that would be more worthy, particularly in the gun community, for the training of women on how to take on a more active role in their personal protection.
You've had a lot of success stories come out of this, Rick. You've had, but Charlie, you interviewed, I believe you said you interviewed 3 ladies before and after, and you heard from one much later when she got back in touch with you, right?
Yeah, so last year I went out, I interviewed 3 ladies before they went shooting, and then 3 ladies after they went shooting, and one of the ladies actually wanted to spend time with me at the range because she was comfortable with working with me and talking with me and stuff. And so she messaged me 2 weeks ago out of the blue, and she's like, hey, I bought my first gun. And I'm like, that's awesome. What did you get? And I think it was a Taurus. Oh my gosh, what are the newer Taurus ones? The M2 or something? I forget. Don't quote me on it. Tauruses aren't guns that we can have in Massachusetts, so I don't know what the hell the name of it is. But she bought her first Taurus, and she's super excited about it. So her name was Deandra, and I got to tell you, it was really cool to hear from somebody that decided she wanted to make a purchase. She did the ladies' event last year and took the process to get her license and bought her first gun a couple of weeks ago. I think it's great. It really is why we do all this, is so that we can change people's lives in a positive manner.
Oh, while I was able to recall my memory, Doug Holloway from ATEI is actually supplying guns for one of the shooting locations. And of course, Top Gun Shooting Sports is donating the use of their firearms for our shooting events. So yeah, I've redeemed myself. Doug Holloway of ATEI.
I will say this: I worked at Recoil last year, and I believe Doug supplied firearms that were at Recoil last year, and those are some first class. He does custom work for Glocks, is what was there last year, and those are some first class firearms. There's some good custom work.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity for a sponsor not only to do a good thing with supplying us with guns, but hey, he gets to actually display some of his artillery and equipment, and it's put to a good use. And hey, who knows? We got Paul Lathrop talking about it on the show, so maybe some people will click through to a link over to ATEI and see what type of guns he has for sale.
Well, we are down at the bottom of the hour. That means we got to run to break. We'll come, but we'll talk more with Rick. But we do have to take our first break. We're going to hear from the Complete Combatant, and we'll be right back, folks, right after this. This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath.
The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
All right, we are back. This is the second interview segment with Rick Ector about the women's shooting event in Detroit coming up the end of this month. Rick, because you are short at least one trainer this year.
Oh, yeah. At least one, right.
I want to again put out the call. If you are watching us and you are a trainer, you will have the weekend of your life. There's a lot of fantastic trainers that show up for this, myself not included, and Charlie Cook not included this year. But a lot of fantastic trainers that show up, and you get to do a lot of real good work and make a real difference. If you can make it to Detroit at the end of the month, get to that link I posted earlier for the training group, and there's even a deal for hotel up there where you can get a discount on, I believe it's the Comfort Suites up there is the one hosting us in Romulus, Michigan. It's just 10 minutes away from the ranges, but going to be a great weekend. Rick, anything else I'm forgetting? Anything else we should be talking about around your event, man?
Man, I think we've covered it. We know when the event is. It's going to be on the 29th and the 30th of this month. Registration is slated to open on July 22nd. I'll have links on my Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit page, Legally Armed in Detroit page on Facebook, over at my blog at Legally Armed in Detroit. My social media, I'm going to be blasting it. I'm a bit fortunate in that I have profiles set up on some of the more popular platforms. The event, the goal, we're looking to train at least 1,500 women, which will bring our grand total over the whole lifetime of the program to 9,000, which has been done principally on one weekend out of a year. Let's see. We talked about an appeal for sponsors. I recognized many of our gracious supporters who've been sponsoring us. Only other thing I can think about is if you see Charlie, grab him by the ear and yank it for not showing up to this year's event.
Well, and Rick, this is not limited to Michigan ladies. If you're within traveling distance to Michigan and you want to take part of this, get to the Detroit area the end of the month, right?
Man, we've had people come from all over the state, all the way down to southeastern Michigan show up. We've even had people drive up from Ohio and Indiana. You know, Detroit area, you know, is at the southernmost part. We're about an hour away from the Ohio border. So, yeah, if you want to drive up, you know, come on up. We'll be happy to train you. You know, just make sure that you go by the registrations website. LegallyArmedInDetroit.com is my blog, which will have registration links. All of my online profiles. Let me tell you, Rick Ector, Legally Armed in Detroit, DetroitCCW.com. There's no way you can miss me. Just Google Rick Ector. I'm telling you, I've been making it my business for like 20 years to make it easy for people to find me. But yeah, we're looking to have a great time, train and empower a lot of women on how to take those first steps into self-sufficiency with regards to personal protection, their families, and protecting their homes. And yeah, everyone but Charlie Cook will be there.
Man. Well, and last year, I was somewhat, I mean, it is very efficient, the process of getting from the time the ladies show up till they get through. I was amazed at how efficient the process was. And even at that, some point last year, you had people lined up. The range I worked at was Recoil, and it's in the end of a mini mall. There's a smoke shop. There's a few other businesses in this mini mall. They had women lined up halfway around this building waiting to get in to be able to take their first shots, and that is inspiring.
Yeah, man. You know, by virtue of having conducted this program for this will be our 12th year, is that I've been forced out of necessity to innovate how I conduct the program. You know, the fact that I went from everyone just show up at 8 o'clock in the morning to an orderly process in which they register for the event and they come in a specific time period. And we bring them in, we give them a range briefing, we pair them up one-on-one with a firearms trainer. By the way, all of these instructors have been vetted. They're all credentialed and experienced. We have yet to have any injuries. You know, the only thing we've had was some squibloads that were quickly caught, diagnosed, and rectified without anything disastrous happening. But you know the thing about squiblows, man. You got to pay attention, and when you suspect one, stop what you're doing, proceed carefully, and get it resolved. But yeah, we've had maybe about 6 or 7 over the lifetime of the program. They do happen, but you know you have trained, conscientious personnel there. You should catch them.
We did have last year. We had an eyelash. There was a unfortunate fatality of an eyelash last year.
Well, look, it's a ladies' event, man, and you're going to have some ladies there. And, man, let me tell you, they all are lovely. And I'm telling you, I am partial to those long eyelashes, man. I love that look, man. And it's, you know, it's kind of retro, like from the 1970s. But, man, I truly dig it. But, you know, we had some scenarios where people actually had to take them off because they couldn't get their safety glasses on. But, hey, whatever you have to do, man, you know, we'll make it happen.
I got to say, those eyelashes do look really good on you, Rick.
Only program participants can make jokes at Rick, man.
Right, I was going to say the only injury was my ego.
Man, look. You know what? I'm done with it, man. I'm gonna quit riding you about why you're not coming, man. Because look, let me tell you, it's always a great occasion to see you, especially to take jabs at you. And I even liked and enjoyed those little videos you posted in the aftermath that you put up on what's that? That's at social networking site where you post video clips. You did
it's
some.
YouTube, Rick.
Was it YouTube or was it the other one? What's the other one that people?
Oh, you're talking about his OnlyFans page.
Oh yeah, his OnlyFans page. Yeah. You know, it's amazing what you can get for only $25.
Oh my goodness! Mercy, mercy, mercy.
Wood says, so no, Charlie, I think this is a good move. He'd be too distracting for some of the ladies.
That's right. My exercise is fighting the women off. Oh my God! I gotta tell you, man, it was a really good time last year, and to me personally, I brought my daughter with me last year. We went down to Hitsville, got our picture in front of the Hitsville, USA.
Well, tell everybody what Hitsville is. I don't know if everyone knows what Hitsville is.
Hitsville is where all the Motown records were recorded. It was the head of Motown Records. And then another day, we went out to Barry Gordy's house and got our picture in front of Barry Gordy's house, which was really cool. But this was really, for me, it's the ridiculous things. So I was there with my daughter, and this lady came up and started talking. I started talking with her. She was an instructor. She came from Chicago. And so just, talked with her. I said, hey, how you doing? She's like, good. I said, hey, my name's Charlie. I came from Massachusetts. She's like, oh, my name's so-and-so. I came from Chicago. And then she's like, wait, are you Charlie from Writing Shotgun with Charlie? I'm like, I am. This is what she says. She's like, I downloaded a bunch of your podcasts so I could listen to them on the way here. And as she said this, my daughter's like, Dad, can I have the keys? I got to go for a drive and leave. I'm like, no, you need to come back. This complete stranger is downloading my show, and she's excited to meet me, and you just want my keys to leave. No. You need to come back. And she's like, goodbye. Goodbye, old man. I'm taking the keys. I'm out of here.
So what goes through your mind when someone actually says, hey, you're that guy on the internet over on YouTube. I watched the show and I listened to it. What's that like?
It's cool. It's obviously it's pretty cool. It makes getting razzed by you well worth it. Let's put it that way.
And I will say this, even though Charlie can't be there this year, Tony Simon, pound for pound, the largest gun bunny in the United States, is going to be there.
I know. You know what? I think we win on the exchange, man.
Well, this has been episode 667 of the Polite Society podcast.
I think that's my line.
Are we at 667 already?
We are. This is episode 667.
Thank God I didn't get on the previous one, man. Are you all at all superstitious when these numbers come up?
Last episode, Rick, was 665. This episode is 667.
So you skipped it. Okay.
We did. We absolutely did.
This is not the episode that you think it is.
Because some people are superstitious like that, man, and I get it. I
figured, why push it? I mean, I am not overly superstitious, but I figured, why push it?
Yeah. So, John, you mighty quiet, man. What are you doing on the last weekend of July? You're not going to this boondoggle that Charlie Cook is participating in, are you?
No, actually. I think we might be going to St. Louis to see the older daughter and bring the two granddaughters and the younger daughter out to see her sister. So,
you said might. Is that like written in granite, written in stone? Is that like a hard might?
I go where I'm told.
Oh.
Okay, so I need to talk to the boss.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you're going from North Carolina to St. Louis, Detroit's just a swing by.
Not exactly.
I got to get this one in before we end this segment.
Here we go.
Said with love for Charlie, but Tony is a bigger deal. Size matters.
This is true. This is true.
He is, and I'm glad to have him and to receive him into the fold and to participate in the event. Yeah, you know what? And it's always cool, man, that when I get different instructors that roll in from different states, it allows them to participate in what we're doing, and we do some of the cross promotion and germination. It happens when we, mix programs and be guests on each other's show and do other things. So yeah, it's great. It gets them to come out. I'm sure he's going to make a ton of friends, and he'll probably pop up on a few shows and things out of the people who are going to be there. He might even, he's probably been on this show before, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think he was on the show with me once, wasn't he?
He was on the weekend edition of the
Was
Bullet.
that the Christmas show? Yeah, we were on the Christmas show, the ugly T-shirt competition.
Oh yeah. Matt and I did an ugly. Oh, I got to say this the right way. An ugly Christmas sweater party. Because I said it was the ugly sweater Christmas party, but he said it's the ugly Christmas sweater party.
Yeah. Paul's throwing up his fingers. I guess Paul. I guess you weren't on that episode.
No, I was not invited there. Let me.
Oh, he wasn't invited. Oh, you got snubbed.
We can only have a certain number of people on the StreamYard.
So I was number 38. I wasn't number 35. Got it.
You know where you rank in the hierarchy. You're like cast the cutoff, and you were not worthy as deemed by Mr. Charlie Cook to be on the Christmas party.
I do this with Matt Mallory, and so I only have half the slots.
Okay. Well, let me get.
That's a sad excuse, man. That's a sad excuse.
Speaking of Tony Simon, he's checking in.
Right.
What's going on? We were just talking about you, Tony.
His ears were ringing.
I'm telling you.
That's right.
And other instructors, Mary Forges will be there for the first time this year. DC Project lady from the state of Connecticut, which is, I think, just east of Massachusetts. South. Okay.
Last
also,
year I got Brooke Cheney to come with us last year.
That is true.
Is Brooke from Connecticut? What state is she from?
She's from Connecticut, yeah.
Okay, so we swapped Brooke for this lady. Okay, all right. We got Connecticut represented.
Also,
yeah, I was really disappointed that Brooke couldn't make it this year, but yeah, maybe we'll get her. Maybe she and Charlie will make it next year.
Right. We can. There's only so much Rick Ector we can take.
Wait. Is it too early to invite you to next year's event?
Wait, what weekend is it?
It's the last weekend in July.
All right, I should be good. I don't have my 2024 calendar yet.
So that's a yes, right?
That's a yes. Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's a yes.
So 67.
Slate it.
Also showing up this year, you've seen him every other Friday on the Legal Bullet with Alex Uli. Alex Uli will be coming up from Southern Indiana, and will be making his first appearance as a trainer this year.
All right.
So,
all right.
Let's
go. More the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me tell you, we got John Richardson here. I know his ears are ringing, man. I know you're like thinking about it, right? Can you talk to the boss and see what she says, man?
I will.
Yeah. At least run it by her. Yeah.
One more that I want to we got to wrap this up, but one more that I want to name drop that's going to be there as a trainer this year. I did not get to work with last year, and he won't be hearing this live because I believe he's underwater, and that is Rob Morse will be coming up this year to participate. So
Rob Morse. So it's like they got a flood or something?
He's scuba diving down in Cozumel.
Oh, yeah. You know, I keep hearing these jokes, man. I don't know, man. It's like some of them are pretty bad about that whole underwater expedition to the Titanic. Man, there's a lot of bad jokes out there, man. Yeah. I'm like, God, these folks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were trying to do something, I guess, novel and interesting, and they, unfortunately, I guess it imploded. But, yeah, man, there are some very mean people on the internet, man.
There's a shock. Last comment for this segment. Charlie has to fly out of Utah, says Tony Simon.
That's right.
All right, guys, we got to shut this one down. We're actually just a little bit late. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we've got our news segment coming up. Big wins for SAF in court. We'll be talking, and multiple wins for SAF. We'll be talking about those when we come back, right after we hear from JPFO, right after this.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong house raids.
Police! Search warrant!
No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
Welcome back. This is the news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Rick has graciously decided that he'll go ahead and join us for the rest of the show as well, so you'll hear his commentary as well. Guys, I want to start off this week. We got a press release. Actually, this is from a Breitbart article. A federal judge in the United States District Court of the Northern District of Texas, Fort Worth Division, vacated the BATFE's partially complete percent pistol frame rule on Monday. The judge, Reed O'Connor, issued the declaration in Vanderstock versus Garland, brought by Jennifer Vanderstock, the Firearms Policy Coalition, the Second Amendment Foundation, and others. The ATF used its pistol frame rule to redefine partially complete pistol frames as firearms, but Judge O'Connor stressed that such a redefinition is up to Congress rather than a federal agency. Moreover, O'Connor noted, because Congress did not define frame or receiver, the words receive their ordinary meaning. I'm going to go ahead and skip down to SAF founder and executive vice president Alan Gottlieb commented on the decision, saying, with this decision, the court has properly struck down ATF's rule and ensured that it cannot enforce that which it never had the authority to publish in the first place. John, you've got a comment that you're starting down in show notes. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, what the ATF was trying to do was force everyone who bought like a polymer 80 or a an 80% lower or an 80% frame to now have to go through an FFL, do a background check, fill out a form 4473, etc., etc., etc. And what the judge said is, you don't have the authority, and that's good. I mean, let's face it, it was aimed at, and I hate to use the term, ghost guns was what the rule was aimed at.
I wish Alex Uli was here that I could bounce this off him, but I believe in his order, the judge struck it down for the entire nation, not just the Fifth Circuit. So I don't think the ATF can enforce this anywhere in the country. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. Do not take my advice.
This, I got to tell you, this would be great news because this is one of the things that the bill that's proposed in Massachusetts wants to eliminate and wants to require a serialization of and a registration of is the ghost guns, so that people in the Commonwealth can't possess them unless they put a serial number on it and register it and say that it's a firearm. So it would be great. It'd be great for in the occupied territory states for them to start following what the courts are saying and not having a hissy fit.
Well, hissy fits are us is their motto. So,
what would it take for like the regulation in terms of guns and the laws that cover guns and firearms? What would it take for Congress to like actually pass laws on guns rather than us having to depend upon rulings based on what the ATF has to say?
This goes a long way towards that.
Okay.
This goes a very long way towards that. It basically what this judge said is you never had the authority to do what you did. You cannot do that. So says I. And that the judge is doing basically exactly what you wanted, Rick, and that is saying, ATF, you never had the ability to do this. You can't enforce it.
Right, and if people destroyed their frames, then or their eventual frames, then they can't get them back. You know what I mean? Like if they did what the ATF wanted them to do, to turn them in and destroy them and all this sort of stuff, that these people are out. They get no relief.
Yeah, and we've always had a history of personally made, self-made guns in the U.S. going back to colonial days. People made their own guns, or they went to their neighbor to have help, and whether it was a Kentucky rifle, Pennsylvania rifle, or a Glock clone from a polymer 80 kit.
Mm-hmm. Last time we were in Dallas for gun rights. This would have been last year, actually, in Dallas at Gun Rights Policy Conference. At the back table, after everything wrapped up, they had a whole line of polymer 80 kits, and they had people working on them right there at GRPC.
Including Charlie
Yes.
Cook.
We need to get the voice changer.
I think through my software I can digitize your face, Charlie. I don't know how I'd change your voice. But yeah,
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, it was. I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun. I almost got my tie mixed up in the Dremel and all sorts of good stuff. So it is good to have other people that will help you with these, because there are some people that are not mechanically inclined or good with hand tools.
I am among them.
Not currently good, man. All you got to do is practice, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But there has to be some sort of an interest as well. This was completely off topic. We had a bunch of years ago. We had a water line plugged into the refrigerator, and the water line broke off because someone that's on the screen right now may have installed it. And we came home, and the house was flooded, and it was just a big mess. A friend of mine came over to re-spackle some holes that were in the closet. And so he's patching the holes up and spackling it and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, man, this is really cool that you know how to do this. And my buddy's like, I wasn't born knowing how to do this. He's like, were you, yeah, no. And then he says, were you born knowing how to play all the instruments you know how to play? I said, no, I had to practice. I had to learn how to do it. He says, well, this is what they do with people. He says, do you want to learn how to do this? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go grab us a couple beers. I'll be back. You keep on working.
Oh man,
Like,
you didn't feel emasculated. You didn't feel emasculated because you didn't know this man skill, did you?
I'm gonna pull a quote from Dirty Harry and say, a good man's got to know his limits.
Limitations. The word is limitations.
Well, a good man's got to know his limitations.
I will say this: I will gladly pay somebody who's an expert in spackling or changing out the camshaft on my motorcycle, or doing transmission work to my car, because I have not yet and do not foresee a time when I will have the time and the patience to learn those things. I do well enough that I have a little bit of money I can shuffle off to other people to have them do it. I'll do that from time to time.
Absolutely. I put a dimmer switch in our kitchen a bunch of years ago as well, and the house hasn't burnt down, so I consider that a success.
Ooh, living on the edge. Living on the edge.
Right.
Did you go down to the breaker box and shut off power, or did you do it live?
No, I read are you kidding me? I got the orange book from Home Depot. I read it 14 times. I went downstairs. I made sure I shut everything off.
Yeah, and meanwhile he was going 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, exactly.
Yeah. All right, our next story here. This is a John Crump story. Bank of America turns over information on gun owners to the FBI. FBI whistleblowers have come forward with damning allegations against Bank of America, according to Representative Thomas Massey and Representative Jim Jordan. The banking giant has been revealing information to the FBI about its customers' gun purchases without a warrant. Now the pair has sent letters to other banks to see if they also violated the privacy rights of their customers. After the protest at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, Bank of America provided the FBI with a list of its customers who made transactions in or around Washington, D.C., purchased a flight to the nation's capital, or booked a hotel room in the D.C. metro area. Most of Bank of America's customers that attended that large rally never entered the Capitol building, and the FBI did not have probable cause to allow the government agency to get a court order for the bank to surrender those documents. When the FBI approached the BOA about turning over the record, the bank complied without requesting a court order. I'm going to go ahead and skip over the rest of the article is rather long, and going to go ahead and skip over the rest of it. Guys, the Bank of America has been a woke bank for a long time. This should surprise nobody. I understand, look, if I had a BOA credit, a Bank of America credit card, if I had a BOA checking account, if I had a BOA anything that I could do something about, I'd be doing something about it.
Yeah. You know what? Man, you know what? I hate to say it, I am actually guilty of actually having an account at Bank of America. Good Lord.
Oh. Charlie, you're up, man. You're up. Your turn.
This is more government overreach. You got to move your finger, Rick, or otherwise we can't see.
Right. I didn't want you to see the number, man.
Charlie was looking to get plane tickets to go to Detroit.
That's right, baby. To me, this is all more government overreach. It really is, and Bank of America is just, what's the word I'm looking for? From Animal House. Thank you, sir. May I have another? I honestly, right after I got divorced, I had a Bank of America account and a couple of credit cards. And right after I got divorced, I'm like, dude, I am done with Bank of America, and I haven't stepped in one since.
Yeah.
All right, John, you got a comment?
Yeah, I mean, my family had been customers with NCNB, which is the predecessor to Bank of America, North Carolina National Bank, since 1966. The bank, NCNB, was formed in 1960, so you could, it was most of their history. I closed it a number of years ago, when they dropped Macmillan Firearms and saying, we don't want to deal with the firearms company. And I had a credit card with them, and I had a remaining small bank account. This was sometime in the 2000s, and I gave them the credit card back and closed the checking account.
So if I understand the story correctly, this is about Bank of America voluntarily furnishing gun firearm purchase information voluntarily over to the government just for in the time period around the so-called January 6th thing down in D.C. Is this like any other gun processors or gun merchants or participating, or is this just strictly Bank of America? We really want to see if this is a bigger thing. Are they asking other banks to provide information, or is this just Bank of America solely and only being woke?
No, it's Bank of America's got caught with their hands in the FBI's cookie jar. However, these congressmen it sent inquiries to J.P. Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Truist Financial, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank Corp, and PNC Financial Services to see if they were in on this as well. So initially, it's U.S. Bank, but these congressmen are investigating other mega banks as well.
Yeah, it's very sad, man. It's distressing. Because what was the deal with the one bank that they were I think the whole industry was looking to come up with a special retailer code for gun stores, so that anytime someone bought a gun, it would show up and they would be able to look and sift through all of their transactions and maybe tie that to people and their purchases, man. I mean, it's really getting to a point, man, where we really have to be careful of people in the gun retailer industry about what they're doing with our information. I mean, we're guilty by association. If we are discovered in their sales records, I mean, if I went to a gun shop, I probably bought a gun or some ammunition or some gun supplies, man. I think that's a really serious problem.
Well, there was back in January, February, the I'm trying to remember the organization. It's based in Europe. but it's the organization that sets all these up.
ISO type.
Yes.
International Standards Organization.
They did say they were going to go start this. And then as soon as that happened, Texas, Mississippi, and North Dakota all passed laws, or were in the process of passing laws, saying you cannot do this in our state. And then all the credit card companies says, okay, we'll back off it for right now. And there's later in the show notes, I'm going to go ahead and jump to it right now. On Wednesday, this is California, this is off nraila.org. On Wednesday, the California Senate Banking and Financial Institutions Committee will hear Assembly Bill 1587 to require credit card issuers to use specified merchant category codes to designate firearms and ammunition retailers. Since the federal government is prohibited by law from creating and maintaining a registry of gun owners, anti-gun radicals have been attempting to outsource this effort to the financial sector. Thanks to pushback by law-abiding gun owners in Idaho, Mississippi, and Texas banning such trafficking, the major credit card issuers have paused implementation. Embarrassed by this setback, the anti-gun radicals are trying to salvage their effort by once again trying to foist new gun control scheme onto California, which already has its own registry and background checks on top of any federal requirements. So yeah, Rick, to answer your question, they were trying to do it. Now in California, they're trying to push this forward again with the theory that what starts in California, just like emissions laws, what starts in California spreads throughout the rest of the country.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, due to their huge population in that state, they're one of the so-called bellwether states, and, California, happens to ideologically sit on that anti-gun end of the prohibitionist spectrum. So, yeah, if it's bad and it has to do with guns, it's probably coming from California. Yeah.
Yeah. Now think about it. Imagine how California would react and the left would react as an invasion of privacy if you said, if you used a credit card or check to pay for birth control, for an abortion, for sex toys, or whatever, they would go nuts.
You know what?
But
I mean, not that I would want such legislation per se, but wouldn't it kind of, if such laws were enacted, wouldn't it kind of give them the hint that maybe we shouldn't be tracking people's personal purchases because they might be engaged in certain activities that people think should be private? Yeah.
Yeah.
And just one more, and they could make a merchant category code for this: marijuana dispensaries. Would you want your? I mean, personally, I don't. You do what you want to do with your body. I do not care. However, would you still do it if there were a merchant category code and some people could track your purchasing, whether through credit or debit card? You could be tracked what you were buying.
What if the ATF was given all that information?
Yeah.
And then you signed a 4473 said, I'm not a user of marijuana.
You'd better hope that your daddy was Joe Biden.
That's right.
I was wondering how that case was going to resolve itself. I think you got he caught a misdemeanor instead of a felony, right?
He caught a diversionary program. Was all he got.
Okay.
He got traffic court.
Yeah,
it was diversion, all right. we were all concerned about 5 people that died 4 days before in a tin can at the bottom of the Titanic, or down by the Titanic. It was a diversion, all right.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I pretty much knew nothing was going to come of it, man, because, he's the president's son, I'm not saying it's right, but I had a feeling he wasn't going to experience the full brunt of the law. I had a feeling
No,
it wasn't
absolutely not. And my stance on the whole thing is this: if one person can get let off, everybody should be able to be let off, right?
Like equal justice under the law.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, bringing it back to gun stuff, when this bill that came up in Massachusetts, again, the stuff we have in New York and in New Jersey, if the criminals are, and Teresa Einiger posts this fairly regularly, she says, if the criminals can break the laws, how come I can't? How come I have to obey the laws? How is it okay for someone else to bring a gun someplace they're not supposed to have, to not have a permit or a purchase, or a permit to purchase, or a license to carry, or any government permission? How is it okay for the criminals to do that without government permission? But if I want to carry a gun in New Jersey, I've got to go through classes. I've got to have an FID card. I've got to have a pistol permit. I've got to have all this other nonsense and rigmarole that I have to go through. But if I don't want to pay attention to the laws, I don't have to go through all this nonsense.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Well, and anybody who's got similar mindset, I'm just saying there's a lot of open space in South Dakota. We could use some more people that think like you do.
Man, it sounds enticing, but I hear it gets bitterly cold in South Dakota, man. Is that true?
No colder than Detroit.
So when I was there 2 years ago, the speed limit, first of all, I was shocked by this. The speed limit was 85?
I've never seen an 85. I've never seen an 85. That was on a sign.
Yeah, it was on a sign. Do you know how hard it was to get a picture of a speed limit sign 85 as I'm doing 97?
Especially when you're doing, you're doing $1.03 down the road. It's kind of hard to take pictures, sure.
It really is.
So if the limit is 85, right, you could probably think that you could get away with doing 5 over, right? Right? That puts you at 90. That puts you at 90, right? And somebody is going to push it, maybe 95, 100. I mean, that's man.
We get them all the time here. And Charlie, I got to correct you a little bit. Speed limit is 80.
80. Oh, okay. Sorry.
But we get, the South Dakota Highway Patrol posts on social media all the time of a cop pulling somebody over. He's got a picture of the radar screen. Would get clocked at 113, 118, 120. People will absolutely push it. They usually write you 90 and above. They'll usually leave you alone below 90. So
now, is this only the interstates or superhighways, or
it's interstates? The speed limit on some 4-lane divided highways that are not interstates is 70, so yeah, it's speed limit on 2-lane rural roads, farm roads is usually 65. We're pretty reasonable about it.
When I was in Texas after GRPC, 2-lane back roads, 75.
Yeah.
Woof, baby. Here in Massachusetts, the speed limit's 65, and I tell everyone else, when people ask me, well, what about this? Can I have a new post 1994 high cap magazine, or as you guys just call them, magazines? But can we have these in Massachusetts? I say, look, the speed limit on the Mass Pike is 65. Everybody does 80. So, you can choose the rules that you want to break and obey.
Getting back to
you happen to know what the penalty is for that?
Oh, a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
No, on the magazine.
In Massachusetts, oh my God. It's either I don't think it's a felony, but I think it's like $1,000 fine and up to 5 years in jail, maybe.
Yikes!
Oh, so wait, 5 years in jail?
That's a felony.
I think so.
That's a felony.
I think so. Let me check it out. Let me see what I can find.
I got a comment in from Mike White talking about the previous story. Could your gun store enter a fake number for you? I don't think with what Biden has been doing with the ATF and going after gun stores, if they did that, they would be risking their business. I don't know that you would find many willing to do that. So, also, let me see here. Get this one up. Oops, that's the wrong one. I had too many comments coming in. I skipped one down. There we go. Some spots in California, you can go 70 miles an hour. I challenge you to do that in downtown Los Angeles, even if you're on an interstate, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's when rush hour starts.
You know what? I am so glad that I don't have to contend with traffic on that level, man. 3 o'clock in the morning, that's way too early in the day to be stuck in traffic. No, I'll stick it out here in Michigan if I don't suddenly, inexplicably be drawn to out where you're at, Paul. Seth, man, I don't know. I keep hearing it's cold out that way, man.
No colder than Detroit, I'm telling you.
You guys get snow?
North Carolina?
Yeah.
Depends on where you're at.
Well.
Altitude. In the mountains, sometimes. In the coast, very rarely.
You know, I've always said if I ever left Michigan, I'd go to Texas, man. And, yeah. Texas, I think, would be the first state, and then I probably would go to Florida. But I'm still stuck in Michigan for right now, man.
I'm going to say right now, if I were to ever leave South Dakota, you would find me where the picture is behind me, the Virgin Islands. Went down there for a vacation this past February. Absolutely fell in love with it. And if I ever move anywhere out of the land of freedom, that's where I would move. Simply because February, 80 degrees, snorkeling. I mean, come on, what's to hate about that? Guys, let's go ahead and we're going to wrap it up on this part. We've got to go get to our DGUs. And as usual, we're running overtime. We're going to combine our DGU and wrapping the show up segments all into one. So we're going to step aside to break. We got one more segment of the show coming right back, right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
All right, welcome back. This is the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The Defensive Gun Use segment is intended as information and education only, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations, except Rick's. Rick's should be the opinion of the sponsors and other affiliations. Let's get started with a DGU out of Las Vegas. As the press and the gun control crowd would have us believe, ordinary armed citizens do not stop mass shooting events. Sorry, folks, we do tend to know otherwise. A man wearing a helmet and carrying an AR-15 and other weapons entered the Turnberry Towers on a Friday afternoon. He fired at the front desk, shattering glass, but otherwise, no injuries occurred. A building employee who happened to be in the lobby was also armed and fired at the gunman. He hit the gunman and caused the gunman to flee the area while still under fire from the armed employee. Security video shows the gunman exiting the building after getting shot. However, he did survive. Quote, my valet comes out waving his arms saying there's a guy with a gun, turn around and go the other way. And so we go down to the basement, the first level where the valet parking is, and we heard about 6 to 7 or 8 gunshots, resident Benjamin Teal said. It was pretty distinguishable to be a gunshot. An unnamed social media user claimed the shooter was a resident and the shooting was unprovoked. He went to his car, grabbed an AR, and came back in and shot the front lobby up. Humberto, who works in the receiving, is a hero. He shot the armed man and saved so many lives. Nobody was injured other than the shooter. The gunman was in critical condition. Looks like Humberto was practicing pants on, gun on.
Look, man, I carry a gun everywhere I can legally do so, man. And you know what? I always, consider, that possibility. I hope it never happens, man. But I couldn't imagine kicking myself, where an incident is occurring and I didn't have a means of protecting myself or at least trying to stop someone who's trying to commit unsolicited violence out in public, man. Kudos and congratulations to that hero for participating and helping to stop that bad guy from doing evil.
Absolutely. Not a lot in there to go off of. Charlie or John, you want to chime in?
I'm going to pass. I'm working my way through the gun laws to see what possession of a high cap magazine is. I'm going through pages of nonsense.
Nothing for me on that one.
All right. John, you want to take us to Amarillo then, man?
Yeah, the next one is from Amarillo, Texas. At 5:30 a.m., Amarillo police received a call about a residential burglary. The female homeowner had told police the burglar had forced his way into her home through the locked back door. After he broke into the home, she grabbed a gun and shot him. When the officers arrived, the 53-year-old burglar was, quote, just a body. According to I presume this is the Texas Department of Corrections, the man had been in and out of prison since 1991 for cocaine possession, aggravated robbery, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He was also a convicted sex offender after being convicted of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl. Oh, and wait, we're not done. In 1994, he was accused and convicted of killing 2 men, stealing their cash and money. He had spotted some guys at a club and chased after him and killed him. So the homeowner did us a big service.
Am I the only one whose mouth is open that you can get caught and convicted of a violent crime and like go to prison and get out?
Yeah.
Am I the only one who's like here with my mouth gaping open like, hey, this guy probably shouldn't have been out anyway, right?
1994, killed 2 men, stealing from them their cash and jewelry from them. And so that was less than 30 years ago. Meanwhile, in 1991, cocaine possession, aggravated robbery, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, you would think that would get you more than 3 years in prison. So he was out in 1994 and killed 2 people, stole their cash and jewelry. You would think that would get him at least 30 years in prison. However, he got out and convicted sex offender after being convicted of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl. And then in 2023, a female homeowner finally finished him off when he picked the wrong home. So,
yeah, and when you think about it, this is Texas. You would have thought he would have stayed in jail for a lot longer, or prison.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I really have come to understand and appreciate about Texas, man, usually in Texas, if a bad guy shows up with evil in his heart, man, there's usually a good Texan somewhere with a gun to usually make them stop, man. So hats off to people in Texas, and hats off to you. The victim was a woman in that story, right? 51 years of age?
Yep.
Outstanding.
absolutely. Let me go back up. 50. No, the attacker was a 53-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go to the source article here. Let me see because I don't think we don't have any identifying information. This is good that we don't have any information other than just a woman. That's the only information we have about the victim. So, and honestly, we don't need the victim's name to be good because we don't want the family. I'm sure if this guy is that bad, his family may be better, but that's a low bar to clear. So we don't want family going to get retribution against a homeowner who was just defending herself. Charlie, did you get that looked up yet?
I got nothing. I'm going to have to find it after we're on the show. I've got a little booklet in my other room that might be a little easier to find out because it's impossible. There's so much nonsense to try to sift through.
All right. Last DGU this week is out of Houston, Texas, a few hours south of Dallas. A 9-month pregnant woman, and this is the one that Rick alluded to earlier. 9-month pregnant woman stopped by the all-season food store to deliver a meal for her husband who was working in the store. Nearby, there was a silver SUV parked with 2 armed men inside. She got out of her car, and immediately the passenger of the SUV got out with an AR and told her that she startled him. She called her husband, who came outside. The man with a rifle got in the driver's seat of a green Dodge Challenger parked next to the SUV. There were multiple women inside that vehicle. The driver of the SUV decided to pick a problem. The husband said the man repeatedly asked him, "Do you want to die tonight?" The video from the scene shows the couple ignoring the 39-year-old thug and shows him pointing a gun at them multiple times. He then approaches the husband and starts to pistol whip him with the gun. Luckily for her husband, the wife would have none of that and pulled out her gun from her bag and shot the assailant, who continued pointing his weapon at the couple. The husband was also armed and also shot him. "Thank God we had our guns. I've never been happier to be a gun carrier," the woman said. They held him at gunpoint until medical attention arrived. A bystander told him, "Hey man, if you think you're dying, you might as well pray to God for forgiveness," the husband said. The bad guy, a convicted felon prohibited from possessing firearms, remained hospitalized Wednesday. He's charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and unlawful carrying of a weapon. Houston PD said a second suspect was also involved but remains on the loose. The woman said, "No, they're not taking out my baby daddy before July 11th, referring to her due date. Here's hoping the delivery goes smoothly and the baby and the family have a long life. They were keeping their identity concealed for fear of retaliation." And again, that's good on the news organization. This is ABC 13 for not revealing the identity of that family.
Hey, man, there's a ton of good in that story, man. Hey, bad guy with the gun committing evil, law-abiding citizens lawfully carrying firearms. They used it lawfully and judiciously, had good aim, stopped the bad guy, and hey, man, I'm a huge advocate of women and guns, so, it's nothing but win all over this story.
That's absolutely right. And I love that both mom and dad, or husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever.
Baby daddy.
Yeah, I'm loving that mommy and baby daddy were both armed and both returned. Well, they didn't return fire. They both stopped the threat.
Yep.
Yeah, they should be teaching a class, right? Like a team teaching class.
Up in Michigan.
Yeah.
Right, up in Michigan. The woman's got to put on one of those pregnant suits, right?
Well, she would only have to until the 11th. I mean, so, After the
No,
11th,
man, I mean, it's nothing but good all over that story, man. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of women carrying. Look, they are the most prized targets of bad guys. The more of them that carry, hey, the safer we'll all be. Nothing but win all over that story.
Absolutely.
100%. Well, let's do this, guys. Go ahead and shift gears here. As we normally do, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start talking about what we've been doing in and with the media. John, I'm going to lead off with you. What's been going on over at Only Guns and Money, man?
Well, as I said earlier, most of my attention was taken up with my granddaughters this past week, so blogging was slow. I did take note of the denial of the NRA's motion to intervene in the SAF's case regarding the pistol brace ban. The judge said it was not timely. And I'm just going to add that Bill Brewer, despite all the money he's been paid by the NRA, has lost another one. Another case I want to bring some light to, Michael Cargill. He's been on our podcast before, and he was the winning plaintiff in the Fifth Circuit case on the bump stock ban. So what does the BATFE and DOJ do? They subject Michael and the Central Texas Gunworks, his store, to an intensive audit and inspection. After 4 days, what did they find after going through 13,000 Form 4473s? 2 misspellings of the word Austin. Basically, what you're seeing here is plain and simple retribution by the government, who is attempting to put him out of business under Biden's zero-tolerance policy. And I really do hope both Ted Cruz and Ted Cornyn get involved and bring some light to this and say, what the heck are you doing? That and more is that. Go ahead.
An obvious witch hunt. It was an obvious witch hunt. Yeah. And the major infraction out of all the records that they searched was 2 misspellings of the city of Austin.
Yeah.
And that's a material. And that's a
I don't know if it's material.
And that's a material crime, not in conformance with the law. I mean, that's really sad.
Yeah.
So did they say anything about any penalties that were going to be levied against them for 2 misspellings?
I have not seen anything more about this.
Charlie? That has. If you looked up petty in the dictionary, that would be this scenario.
Let's talk about the last 4 sentences in your thing there. Biden's zero tolerance policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
It's got to be willful.
Got some sort of a tolerance. Oh, okay.
I mean, it's supposed to be willful. I mean, let's face it, people misspell stuff all the time.
A lot of people.
I mean, you could have spelled Austin Austen.
I'm not being petty, but shouldn't the government's websites where you enter this information have a spell checker built into it? I mean, good Lord. Like, is this?
Well, I think it was
really
done it was on paper.
Man, you misspell Austin as in Austin, Texas on paper, and that's a non-conformance of our gun laws. Wow.
It's ridiculous.
It is. And I am one that, as much as people give a hard time about spell check, I am eternally grateful for it. Not only did I not win the National Spelling Bee when I was a kid, I didn't win the spelling bee in my 15-seat second grade class, third grade class. There were 30 people in all of my class when I was going through grade school. They divided us into 2 classrooms, 15 apiece. Yeah, I couldn't win against 15 other kids. So, yeah, no.
What was the word? Do you remember the word? Do you remember the word that got you out?
Probably baseball or something like that.
BASS? BALL?
Exactly.
Baseball.
Yes. Real quick, I am lucky to spell my first name right most of the time. That coming from Coop over at CNT Designs and Arms. And I'm sorry, folks. I've been paying too much attention to Rick and Charlie and John. I haven't looked over at comments in a long time, and I'm just now getting
I just want to say I appreciate that.
Hey, there's the gun foodie, Patrick.
Yeah, who will also be there there's a lot more people, I think, on the training world that are going to be there than aren't going to be there, Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. Look, Patrick is going to be there. Mr. Collins, who incidentally is the proprietor of the gun food. He is actually the supplier of the 9mm ammunition that is supplying us for the women's shooting event. So I got the gun rights group to give me the money, and we're buying it from Patrick. So, yeah.
Very good.
Everything's coming full circle this weekend.
All right. Charlie, we're late. Big shot. Charlie.
Yeah.
Riding shotgun with Charlie. Anything else you want to plug? What you got, man?
Next week, I'm going to be putting out a show with John Colas, who wrote a book called Pistol Practice. He's a Massachusetts guy, so it talks about it's not a basics of shooting, but it's how to turn your practice into fun, which is really cool. So he's going to be on the show next week. Armed Lifestyle Magazine is going to be coming out very soon. The person that I talked to in my upcoming Writing Shotgun with Charlie column is Hickok 45. So that's going to be coming out soon. You can find that at armedlifestylemagazine.com. You can find the article I wrote about the sham of the gun law listening tour at News 2A. And then again, next week in podcast and on YouTube, the Writing Shotgun with Charlie with John Colas is going to be out.
So now you know I got another bone to pick with you now, right, Charlie?
Here we go. Jesus. Didn't you hear Paul say we're over time?
You know, this is another bone. Not only are you not coming, but you haven't invited me to be a subject in your column in the lifestyle magazine.
I don't want to say I don't have control over it, but I say, what's the theme that we're going with? And they say, this is the theme that we're going with for the issue. Find someone that works. I'm like, all right. I'll get you in.
All that is just a lack of creativity, right? That's all it is.
So
Charlie, from a teacher, no less.
Not a spelling teacher.
That should be the epitome of creativity.
So Charlie wrote about ShamWow this week. Stay tuned next week. He writes about shake weights.
Oh!
Let's go ahead.
Oh man.
That will wrap up another episode of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. I would love to thank Rick Ector for joining us today. So for Amy, Dana, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, Carrie Ann, and Rob.
Until next time,
stay safe.
Be aware.
And we will see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.